Hello. Welcome back to my channel. I am Monet and you're watching Life is Monet. So this is going to be a rather chaotic wrap up because I am not prepared. Okay, I just sat down and started hitting record. I'm going to go through my Goodreads and look at all the books I've read recently. And I'm just going to talk about a book that triggers either something good or bad within me. And we're going to see where we end up. Okay, I don't know how many books I'm going to want to review today, but let's just jump right into it. Let's kick it off. Oh gosh, I've read so many books since I last spoke to you guys, and I don't know where I want to start. Let's kick it off with Ghoul by Alexandria House. This is book 1 in the St. Louis Sires series. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. This is a Black romance between a hired in-house nanny and a Black professional hockey player. So we have Malik, who is a professional hockey player. Like I said, he is in this relationship that he's been in for years. The girl has been down with him since college. It doesn't really inspire a lot of like passion or ambition in the relationship. He's just kind of there because she is loyal to him. Loyalty is very big for him because he has some fatherly issues, as well as he's more endeared to his mom, but she has some mental health concerns that requires her to be in and out of institutions. And so he is waiting for like this fire to awaken within him to want to settle down and get married and have kids with the current girlfriend that he has. But it's just not working out like that. All of a sudden, his dad that he was estranged from has passed away, and he finds out that his father left custody of his little brother and sister to him, and he is so not prepared for this at all because the last interaction that he had with his dad actually sent him away because his little brother was on the way, and he chose to father the mixed kids versus his fully Black son. So now all of a sudden he has his half brothers and sisters within his home. His girlfriend is upset about this because this is not what she pictured when she was going to be, you know, the wife, fiance, or whatever of a professional hockey player, and she wants kids of her own. She doesn't want to be saddled with his little brother and sister. And so Malik hires an in-home nanny. There's a romance that transpires between them. Things do get kind of tricky, but there is essentially no like on-page cheating happening within this book. But I do want to let you know if that's something that might trigger you. This is kind of like he transitions out of one relationship right into another. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I really liked Nuri as a main character. I liked her story. I liked the character that was built around her. And I like how cautionary she was when it came down to entering a relationship with Malik. And so she required a lot of reassurances, a lot of words of affirmation. I think that Malik matched her in that very well. I also started reading One Piece, which I mentioned in my TBR, and it's going like really swell. There are some arcs that are not my favorite, but I really like the characters. I really love Luffy. When I watched the live action on Netflix, I was taken back by how well Netflix did with the adaptation. And I watched a couple of shows of the anime, but when I picked up a volume and started reading it, I just enjoyed it. Like my enjoyment on reading it versus watching it is just so much higher. And I also think that Luffy himself is portrayed differently in all 3 formats. Like in the manga, he is extremely funny, and I think that sometimes I feel that humor lost its translation into the anime, where like sometimes he's funny but he's just not as charismatic and just humorous as he is in the manga itself. And I think that even in the live action, the humor and the funniness of Luffy in the manga just doesn't translate. So I much prefer reading it. Right now, one of my favorite characters is actually Sanji after Luffy. So I've been really loving One Piece, and that is a shocker to me. I did not expect me to enjoy it as much as I have, but I'm deep up in it, honey. I'm deep up in it. My goal by the end of like next month is to be halfway through the volumes, which seems pretty doable, which is only like between this month and next month, it'll be me reading like 15, maybe 12 to 15 more volumes, and then I will be halfway through the series, and so I'm excited about that. I also read volume 9 and 10 of Demon Slayer, and I decided to put it down and not go back to it for a while. It's not like a DNF, but it's like a not right now for Demon Slayer. I think that I would much rather watch Demon Slayer than read it, because at some point, I think I just got to the point where it felt like he was just focusing so much on breathing techniques that it was just fight, heal, breathe, fight, heal, breathe, 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 fight, heal, breathe. And I was just like, I'm so sick of the breathing techniques. Like, we're 11 volumes into the series. We still have no idea how we're going to save the sister. We have no idea if it's even possible to save the sister. We are not getting anywhere in terms of like the background plots of finding out more information, of getting closer to this like demon king sire of all the demons that we're hunting down. It felt like we were so far waylaid, and I just was not happy with the progress of the story or the character development. I just literally felt like nothing was happening but breathing techniques, and it got to the point where it was just getting on my nerves. So I put it down for now until I can find like more patience, and hopefully when I pick it back up, we're closer to like figuring out if we can even save Nezuko. Maybe I see some character growth in Tanjiro himself, but for right now, I am done with Demon Slayer. Let me know if I was like right on the cusp of moving past that, because man, if I get one more water breathing, fire breathing, I'm gonna lose it. And then I also started reading Full Metal Alchemist, and this endeared me. I got recommended this manga series so many times, and I wanted to read it, but when I say I could not find it anywhere, like my Libby doesn't, I have like so many libraries on my Libby, none of them have Full Metal. I would go to my local library in person and request it, and there would be so many volumes missing or like checked out for months or completely damaged. It was really hard for me to get my hands on the complete series, and I don't like to buy ebooks for reasons that I will mention later, but I don't like purchasing ebooks. So Alana graciously gifted me a box set of the complete edition, and so I finally was able to read it, and I have been loving it. It's like so close to me. I think what triggers me more in terms of like reading the story is that we have these two little kids with this like heartfelt origin story, and they're children, and they're caught up in political schemes and political plots that go deeper than the government. You know what I'm saying? Like, these kids are in way above their head, and there's so much injustice in this world. And of course they have heart of pure gold, and they want to solve it, and they want to help everybody, but sometimes it can just get overwhelming. And so I love and hate the fact that there is so much adult content, like adult situations that are literally teen characters are forced to take on. But I think that the author does a really good job of maintaining that like youthfulness and that naivete and like hopefulness in them. And so it makes me more engaged as a reader, because I don't want them to get to the point where they're like, you know, the world is crap and everything's fucked, and, you know, they just have their spirit broken. I think that they just have that genuine youthful spirit, and it balances the sourness of the things that they're dealing with in the world. So I plan to watch Brotherhood, but only after I have read through all of the volumes, and I'm on volume 11 out of 27. So halfway there. I'm in no rush to like finish it really quickly, because it's my go-to when I want something cute and fun, and that's gonna really engage me, because the plot is so well done, so thought out. So I pick it up when I'm in the mood for something like that, so I'm in no rush to kind of finish it. And then we have Holding, which is book 2 in the Alexandria House series for the St. Louis Sires. So in this one, we have like childhood best friends to lovers, enemies to lovers. They were married before, so this is a second chance romance, because they were married and now they are separated from each other, but they are finding that they are not happy without each other. But there is quite a few things that they need to work through and resolve before they can make their way back to each other. And I am learning that a second chance like marriage romance, I eat up. Before I Let Go and Holding, I really enjoyed them. So this one I still gave 4.5 out of 5 stars. It wasn't really quite a 5-star read, but I think as a trope, reading about married couples who are separated or divorced now, making their way back to each other is just where I am in my like adult romance reading era. So if you have more recommendations for books like that, please put them down below, because I have been enjoying them. Okay, I'm sorry guys. Chanel is literally texting me about a book that I'm gonna review in this video. It's a thriller that is blowing her mind like it blew mine, and so let me text her back really quickly, because she's losing it. Okay, so then let's get into Tokyo Ghoul. I, in the month of December, read and finished Tokyo Ghoul, the first series, which is about 14 volumes, and I understand the hype. When I first read it, I don't know what I was expecting, but it was really good. I tried to watch the show, so you know how heartbroken I am over that, because the show was not good in my opinion, and I'm very sad that it did not work out. So if you're not familiar with the plot of Tokyo Ghoul, we have Kaneki, who lives in this world where there are ghouls. Ghouls are creatures that look and mimic humans, but they actually feed off of them, and so they are are living within the shadows of this world. Kaneki has a crush on a girl who's very, very beautiful, and he invites her out on like this outing, and then he comes to find out that she is a ghoul. Something happens where she is basically killed in an accident as she's trying to attack him, and there is this life-saving surgery that Kaneki undergoes where they actually use the organs of the ghoul who was attacking him, because they don't know she's a ghoul. So they take her organs because she dies on impact during this accident, and put her organs into Kaneki. And so now he is living in this world as a half human, half ghoul. And so he is basically exposed to this underground world of ghouls and the society that they live within. He deals with a lot of injustice, and he's trying to find how he can exist in the human world as well as the ghoul world, because he is half. And there is, of course, some other storylines and plots that goes with that. If you are interested in reading Tokyo Ghoul, I highly recommend that you read it, because I just felt like the show went in an entirely different direction. Like, it was loosely based off the manga, and I just feel like the show is like an anime original where they did their complete own thing with it. And so I just feel like it's more enjoyable if you read it. Now, to be honest with you, I have not watched the full show because I came from the manga to the show, so I was very disappointed in all of the changes that they made. So I can't judge the show as an anime separate from the manga, because I'm a disappointed manga reader. So maybe check out some reviews to see if the show itself, even though it's a different storyline, I feel is good as that storyline, if that makes any sense. Then I also read Ghoul, which is book 5 in the Play It Prisoner series. You guys know that I love this series. Like, man, I really enjoy it. Everything about a fantasy romance that I like is always in this series. Now, this one I was unsure about. Like, I was very nervous about, because it was supposed to be the final book in the series, and then we find out a couple of weeks before the release date that it's actually being split into 2 books, and that just kind of made me like, oh my goodness, like, are we gonna get like a sluggish like middle or like prior to finishing the series book where everything's just like drawn out and nothing's actually happening and there's no plot progression? Like, usually when they're like, oh, we gotta split the final book into 2 or 3 books, I read it and I'm like, nah, you definitely could have done it. I think that we had a significant amount of plot progression. We had so much explanation in this world. We got so many like answers to the questions that we've had for the entire series. So I left this book excited for the final book and grateful that she decided to split it, because it can be really hard when you are engaged in a large battle or a large war that can determine how this world is going to be going forward, and finding out answers to questions that you've had for a long time. I feel like our characters don't get a chance to really sit and digest that information. So it was nice to see this like buildup of momentum into this epic final battle, and have time to sit with all the revelations and like secrets uncovered. I enjoyed that. I think that, like, in comparison, A Court of Wings and Ruin is an example of a book that's like you're in the middle of like a large battle and finding out information, and it could feel like, oh, like too much is going on, like we're consuming too much, and like how is she juggling all these balls in the air. I think that Raven Kennedy did a good deed, a good service to her fans by saying, okay, like, let's answer and give out all the information that we want at this time, and they know that going into the final book is when our big battle, our big blowout is going to be. So I think I settled on like 4 stars for this one, and I was very satisfied. Then I finished reading Blood on the Tracks. This is a series, like a thriller, a psychological thriller of a manga that I started reading last year, and I think that the first like 10 to 12 volumes are immaculate. Like, I would recommend them to anyone. They are jaw-dropping, they are engaging, they are psychologically provoking, emotionally provoking. I thought it was really good. But when I decided to finish the series, I was very, very, very disappointed in the ending that we got. I understand what the author was attempting to do, and I understand the logic behind that. I just feel like from the beginning of the story to like kind of where we end up, it loses so much of what attracts the readers to the story, and it almost makes me feel like if this is where the ending was going to be, then it should have been a shorter series, because you are in this middle of the like manga, you're in the middle of the series, and it's starting to feel a little sluggish, and you're pushing yourself through thinking that you're gonna have this worthwhile ending. To get that type of ending, I think that we should have shortened the books a little more, just because we got more information about things that was happening in the young boy's life, Seichi's life, but it didn't really pay off in the end. It's like we didn't need to know all the details that we did for the ending that we got. I hope that that makes sense, but I love the beginning of this series and I'm just extremely disappointed with the ending. Then I read The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin. My reading over the last 2 months has been very sporadic, very all over the place. I've been wanting to read something by James Baldwin and I decided to start here. And I think that this is the most profound thing that I have read in a really long time. I know that this book was written in like the mid 1900s, but man, it feels like he could have just wrote it yesterday. And I think that the purpose of calling this book The Fire Next Time was really justified and wrapped up extremely well towards the end of the book. And he takes his experiences, his direct experiences with America and with church and what he's witnessed over the time, and kind of explains how in different sects of the world, I mean, yes, he's putting it in the context of America, but he does some international traveling as well. So in the different sects of the world, whether you are atheist or Christian or whatever denomination of Christian you are, and whether you live life as a sinner or you live life as a conservative or whatever, everybody is culpable in the idea of it, like in biblical terms, when God makes the promise that he would never flood the earth again, next time it's going to be the fire. He talks about how we are all willfully indulging, even when we're actively and cognitively trying not to, we're willfully indulging in things that could be perceived as justification for the fire next time. And so I think you should pick it up. I think you should read it, especially if you are a person of color. I think he does a really good job of tying in race, but not just blaming everything on racism, and just kind of showing that if this is our era where we're supposed to redeem ourselves and we're supposed to show that we can change the perception of humanity and we can bend the arc towards goodness, how we are all falling short in our own way. And then I read Mayfly. This was recommended to me on one of Jess's lives a few weeks ago. I think I was on a live in December, and everybody was talking about Mayfly, so I decided to pick it up. It was extremely unhinged and weird. We have Maeve, who works at the happiest place on earth. She is, you get the sense that she works basically at Disneyland or Disney World, but she is a lot more sinister beneath the surface. And Maeve, essentially the overall theme of this book is her searching for a place of deep acceptance, even to the darkest, more gory parts of herself, and how even in her quest to be accepted fully and to be seen fully for all of the dark things that she harbors within herself, she has this wall up of deniability, of being undeserving of love, that even when someone is right in front of her that is willing to love her and accept her and match her dark energy, she also cannot see it. I gave it 3 stars. There was some weird stuff, weird sexual stuff with boiled eggs that I can't get out of my mind, and I would really like to. So then I went through the rest of the catalog for S.A. Cosby. I have read Razorblade Tears and All the Sinners Bleed, which is 2 out of the 4 books that he has out. So I went through and I read Blacktop Wasteland, which I gave 3.5 stars. We're following Beauregard, who is battling what he considers to be generational curses or generational influences from a father who has abandoned him and left for a life of like criminal activity. And Beauregard is known to be like the most dangerous person behind the wheel. He's the best getaway driver you could have. He is out of the game. He's trying to live life on the cleaner side, but he's really struggling financially. Someone comes to him and offers him to do a heist and for him to be the getaway driver of the heist, which actually goes rather successfully. But from the heist, there's a lot of fallout that basically becomes a chain or like shackles around Beauregard that tips him back into a life that he's actively trying to leave. He's also a father himself of a son, and so he's starting to see the traits that he was unable to successfully fight within himself that he got from his dad. He's starting to see those displays within his son, and so you see this battle as these black men are all facing like kind of the same questions of what type of life they're gonna live, whether they're gonna live clean and legally, or whether they are going to dip into like the darker, more violent side that they seem to inherit from each other. I again gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. I think in terms of like, if I was to rank his books, All the Sinners Bleed and then Razorblade Tears and then Blacktop Wasteland would kind of be under that. I also read, what is it called? My Darkest Prayer. This one wasn't my favorite in terms of plot. I know it's the first book that S.A. Cosby has written, but it was my favorite main character. I think he does really good with like Southern noir characters that are aggressive and violent whenever they need to be. And in this book, the main character was definitely my favorite. And then I read The Companion Project, which was an unexpected 5-star read. I did not expect to love this one as much as I did. Henry, which is our male main character, our male love interest, he is perfect in my eyes. He was so emotionally in tune. He was so willing to like match her. This is his first time really falling in love and getting in a real relationship, so he's known to kind of be like a ladies' man. But man, when Emma inspired this like romantic side of him, this desire for him to want to be a partner, I think that the author did a good job of showing that, you know, just because somebody has never done something before, you can trigger a different side of them. And it's like, who knew they had all this love to give? Who knew that they would be like this perfect partner to be with, because they had never like applied themselves or really tried to tip or dip into that side of them. So I think that this awakening of Henry of wanting to be a partner and choosing Emma for life was so perfectly done. So Emma and Henry work at this law firm. She's a civil rights lawyer. This kind of threw me off because Emma is described as a blonde-haired white woman repeatedly within the story. But I listened to this on audio, and the audio is narrated by a black narrator. And so it was really hard for me. Like, yes, I hear you telling me she has blonde hair and blue eyes, but knowing that she's a civil rights lawyer, and hearing her be narrated by a black woman, I'm sorry, it clicked in my head that she was black. I couldn't change it. Okay, I didn't have a physical copy for me to switch over. So in my head, this was an interracial romance. But I'm telling you that it's not. Emma is white, Henry's white. It's just the narration. This is the first time I've had a black woman narrate a white character. I had never experienced that before, so it was a bit of a curve for me to get used to. But they both work at the same law firm. She's a civil rights lawyer. They're both up for partner, so they're kind of in competition with each other. They have no prior kind of like relationship other than being co-workers, but Henry has been harboring this secret crush on Emma for a while, but just never knowing if he's able to kind of cross that line, if she would ever be interested. Also, they work together, so he was trying to be professional, and he's never really felt this strongly towards anyone before, so he has this crush that he doesn't really act on. Emma herself, when she graduated school, she's not from money the way Henry is, and so she is drowning in debt, and so she decides to start this escort company where she would go on dates with men to banquets and galas and balls and dinners or whatever they needed an actual date for. She would go with them. And so Henry has lied to his mom and told his mom that he has a date to his parents' like wedding anniversary. And so he hits up Emma's service to have a date so he can get his parents off his back about being, you know, a middle-aged bachelor who's never really been in a relationship before. And Emma has this policy to where there's no exchange of personal or private information until they actually meet. So they've been corresponding, getting to know each other behind the scenes via emails leading up to his parents' wedding anniversary, and also things are kicking off between them personally at work as well. So they both think that they have a crush on each other in real life, and they're also slightly crushing on whoever the other person in this email may be. And so they're balancing those emotions, and then they find out before the wedding that they've been corresponding with each other, so they actually only like one person. So now they've shared all this deep and dark and personal information with each other, so they already know each other's insecurities and secrets and what makes them happy, but now they have a face to go with it. I think that this was a really well done case of like private identity. Everything about the logic made sense. Her wanting to protect herself and her personal information prior to going on like this fake date kind of thing. It just worked out. 5 out of 5 stars, but Henry was the star of the show. There's not many romance books that are dual POV where I much prefer the male POV, and this was one where honestly, you could have just gave me the whole story from Henry's point of view and it probably would have still been 5 stars. Then I read Jar of Hearts. This was hard for me to rate because I did not like Gio. I did not like the main character at all, and this really prevents me from being impartial about the story because we're really in Gio's head for majority of the book, and I don't like her. I don't like her lack of proactivity, her lack of initiative. I think that I would have preferred for her to take control of one of the many situations that she was put in, but it did not happen until the very end, and it was kind of like, girl, you know? But in this book, we are following Geo, whose best friend was found dead recently. She has been missing for the past 15 years. Geo knows what happened to her 15 years ago, but she has kept it entirely a secret because her best friend was killed by her boyfriend at the time, who is known to be like this serial killer in the Pacific Northwest. And so now it's coming out that not only did she know that her boyfriend, or her ex-boyfriend at the time, had killed her best friend and then went on to kill several different women, but she actually helped cover up the murder. So now he has broken out of prison. Other bodies are popping up dead. There's a string of new bodies being found that is connected to her, and she is still harboring secrets from that night. So you know that everything is not out from what happened between Geo, her best friend, and her boyfriend until the end of the story. That's basically the only short synopsis I can give without spoiling the entire book. So everything hinges upon Geo and how she navigates situations, how she handles and takes control of situations. And I just feel like she was a very lackluster heroine, and it really made for a story that was very frustrating for me because so much did not need to happen the way that it happened if Geo was not so afraid of her own self and not so afraid of the world. So I think I would give this like 3 out of 5 stars. And then I read The Only One Left by Riley Sager. This was an unexpected 5-star read. When I say that, like, I never thought that there would be a world where I would give Riley Sager 5 stars, but this was highly entertaining. This was extremely entertaining, and everything about it was done very well. There were so many plot twists towards the end of this book that I don't think that anybody could have really kept up with it because there was just so much going on within the story, and you get these details that you don't really know is going to matter towards the end, but you're calculating throughout the book as the story is going on, and you're putting stuff together yourself. But I think that Riley Sager not only did a good job of connecting where the readers were and what we thought, but also connecting the things that we weren't paying attention to, and also connecting the things that we didn't think mattered. He tied everything up into a very neat, like, triple-sized bow by the end of the book, and I was just, by the end I was like, well done. Well fucking done. And then the last book that I want to talk about is the one that I actually told Chanel to read. I gave it 5 stars. This is now one of my new favorite thrillers ever, and it was Look Closer by David Ellis. When I say this book was wild, it's a combination of Gone Girl meets A Twisted Love Story by Samantha Downing, because this book is everything that I love in a thriller. It had all the perfect elements, and I promise you, you are not going to guess the ending. By the end, I looked back and was like, oh my goodness, like all the twists were so freaking obvious, but I was just so entertained in the moment that I wasn't really thinking ahead. It's one of those books that just has you like, I just cannot believe what I'm reading right now. And you're so caught up in that you're not really thinking about the ending until the ending is basically there. And then you're like, wow, like he did such a fantastic job with this thriller. You have to, like, if you're in the mood for a thriller, this is it. You have to pick it up. It takes a while for you to get to the point of like the meat of the story, but it really does pay off in the end. Like, it really does. So we have kind of like 2 main characters. We're following several different people within the story. We have Simon and Vicky, who are married, that are in this very troubling divorce, and Simon has a inheritance of millions of dollars, but his father, when he left the inheritance to him, put a clause in there that his wife Vicky would not be able to access any of that money if either of them filed for divorce before 10 years of marriage. So they're 9 years and 11 months into their marriage, and neither one of them are happy, but they're both trying to hold on until year 10 so that they can split, and that Vicky can inherit the millions of dollars for all the time that she spent with him. But Simon runs into an ex-girlfriend from his past that he realizes he's still in love with, and she inspires this fire within him, and so he decides to start having an affair. And Vicky has also been having an affair, and they realize that the person that Simon is sleeping with is trying to convince him to leave Vicky before 10 years so that she can kind of get the money. And so there's this plot in the background to possibly off Simon's mistress so that Vicky can still get her hands on this money. Now, you know from the beginning of the book, because there's a detective investigating the murder of Simon's mistress, that she is in fact dead. But as you go through the book, you discover that more people had motivations to kill Simon's mistress, including Simon himself, besides Simon's wife. On top of that, the person that Simon's wife is having an affair with he is a scammer. And so he wants to ensure that Vicky gets her hands on this money because he wants to scam her out of it. So no one can be trusted. No one is to be believed. Everybody is lying, honey. When I say that all the revelations had my jaw on the floor, I was like, everybody's scheming. This is a book where everybody is plotting on everybody. And I loved it. I loved every moment of it. If I could have gave this book 6 out of 5 stars, I would. I've already recommended it to 2 friends and they have both given it 5 stars. So do yourself a favor and pick it up. That pretty much wraps up all the books that I've read recently that I wanted to talk about on my channel. Thank you guys. If you've made it to the end of the video, let me know one book you will or will not be picking up due to my review. And I will see you in my next one. Bye.